Selamünaleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu. İnşallah let's start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Esselamu aleyküm ve rahmetullah. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Esselatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ve etbahi ve sellem. So welcome to our third and last session. We have been talking about Qur'an versus secularism. In the first session, we were trying to establish the fundamental differences of the worldviews. In the second session, we talked about the outcomes of these worldviews in personal life. And inshallah, in this session, we will talk about outcomes in social life. One point that I realized we didn't pinpoint or emphasize, actually, using Quranic terms, the distinction between secular worldview and Quranic worldview is shirk versus tawheed. Just to put into context, because shirk means ascribing partners to the creator or giving deity to things. And this is what we have been talking about so far. Either I give deity to myself, to the things out there. And in contrast, tawheed means everything that is existing, me, the sun, the moon, my children, and everything must be governed by one and only all-powerful creator. So tawheed versus shirk is really, in Quranic terms, what we have been trying to mention as Qur'an versus secularism. Okay, so outcomes in social life. Survival of the fittest versus universal fellowship is our first point, which was the secular claim is every man for himself. And then they clash with others. Is it an AI-generated picture? Very cool. So, I mean, of course, you are very familiar with this term of survival of the fittest. This is really at the core of this worldview. And its consequence is every man is for himself and should clash with others. And it looks like the irony here is, while trying to maximize your benefit, you have to serve others as well in the name of being strategic. So let's talk about this survival of the fittest part a little bit. So is it not the case? Isn't it that the fittest animals, I mean, the general notion is, I guess, as we know of it coming from theory of evolution, but isn't it that the stronger animals survive, the weakest ones die? And once it applies to you and me, I need to be tough to survive. So is this a wrong worldview, first and foremost?
So just maybe give its due, as they say. Yeah, it looks like that's the case, really, right? The weak countries don't have anything to say in the global arena, and powerful ones can do everything they want. It looks like that. And just to you make it maybe more generic, yes, it is part of the evolution, but it is beyond evolution, just for sure. And the reason I'm telling this, like if we take it as evolution versus Quran, it becomes so narrow. But this idea is so central to everything in our lives. Like the way even we have relationship with our beloved ones. If you look carefully, you will see that it is based on survival of the fittest, right? Only relationship that can adapt will survive. You have to adapt yourself against, not with, against your wife or your husband. Otherwise, you will not survive. That's how we live. Even with your parents, it's always power dynamics, right? Even the beloved ones. So it is so embedded into everything. And it looks like it is there. But as we discussed previously, it all boils down to what lens you are wearing. In the name of what you are reading things, right? So, and at what part you are focusing on. So one example, you open a documentary, which is the most dangerous thing to show your children, by the way. They're watching, like making them watch documentaries. It's so nicely, so professionally designed to teach you in the best way, to teach you the secular worldview. A lion chases an animal to grab and destroy. They never, for instance, show you the moments they drink from the same water. Never. It's carefully designed, these documents. But anyway, like the short answer would be, it depends on what lens, in the name of what you are reading, the existence. And I will stop there. So would you like to add anything?
I mean, just to give survival of the fittest its due, as well.
So it looks like you guys are empathizing with this. What happened?
We are broken. We are professionals.
Okay.
I mean, I would say it's hard to argue against, because you look at a falcon, a hawk, an eagle, they're the top birds of prey. I mean, they're the ones that are hunting everything else. The rabbit, the small, cute rabbit, it has to run away, hide. It can't protect itself, it seems. It's cute, but it's just going to taste just as good as, it's going to taste good in the eagle, you know? Or you look at a bear who just walks around and eats deer, elk, whatever it finds. It just eats, just very powerful animal. It just eats whatever it wants. And then, so I mean, the animal kingdom, it seems like, as bad as these documentaries might be, it seems like there is this aspect where if you are strong, you get to do whatever you want. No one can stop you. So, and then like, even like if I go, not just the animal kingdom, but then I look at, let's say, human to human relationships, it also seems, you know, if you're strong, physically strong, or you have like power in terms of like weapons, again, you get to do whatever you want. Like, I don't see, you know, the weak countries, maybe they yell or they say something, but nothing really happens. Or even in like relationships, like, I guess generally the man is stronger than the woman. So again, there could be like abuse or different kinds of things as well. So it does seem like power, just like physical power, it's very hard to just ignore that and say that, okay, it's not, if you tell me power isn't, like, people who are powerful don't get to do whatever they want, I would say, how do you explain those scenarios?
And speaking of power, nowadays it's all about power dynamics, power language, right? So the social norms, it is at least claimed that everything is shaped in the social world based on the language use, power. I have superiority over someone, someone else has superiority over me. It's all about such structures, right? And it is really hard to escape from this worldview. So we made it more, you know, difficult for you to escape.
Yeah, so I guess I would say just let's go. It looks like there's so much convinced. So as an outcome of this, when it applies to me then in the workplace, so I have to watch my back, I guess. So I shouldn't expect mercy from anyone. Okay, be polite, be professional, smile always to others, but never trust anyone. And anybody can just, slide your feet at any moment. So you better slide their feet before they slide yours. So I guess this is being since it's survival of the fittest, like it's not, there's, I guess, not practically a way for peacefully living, because I can never trust the other guy. So I have to be on the guard. The moment he is about to raise his hand, maybe even for scratching his head, I have to hit it. You never know, like, what's going to happen. Because otherwise, we could have lived in a world peacefully where such a law, like all the countries, let's say, were acting in there, but it looks like it's not working out.
But when you say, you know, the clashes and I have to watch my back, against others. Like in practice, it seems like this is not the case. I mean, these, especially in this country, these people are the most, what is it called, civilized people, right? Especially in the workplace, they would even respect this gentleman's funny hat, right? They would respect it. They wouldn't say, "Oh, our ladies, the covering." They wouldn't say, "What are you doing? Take it off." In Turkey, they would. That's interesting. It's irony. It's the Islamic country, right? But some people in some places, they would say, "What is this? You are insulting me. Take it off." They would say. So coming from such a place, seeing these people, they are actually very civilized and they don't seem to be, hitting each other physically. What do we mean with this clash? What we're talking about here is again, the worldview. Because sometimes even when you have clash of power, right, you have some stable moments. What I mean with that, within the power dynamics, you just, strategize. You say, I have that much power, she has that much power. So if I act this way, she will act that way. Game theory, right? And within this theoretical framework, you will find some stable points where nobody is hitting each other, right? Why not hitting each other? Because if I hit, he may or she may hit back, and I can get, the bigger loss than not hitting, for instance. So that's the ideology there. It's all about calculations. If I treat him this way, I gain that much. If I treat him that way, I gain this much. How do you know that? Like, this is not getting into the mind of the people and questioning their intentions. In practice, what happens when you put the same people in a different context, different power dynamics from their point of view, you see that the actions are changing. So, for instance, that because we are living in the US, and don't take it as a criticism of an external thing. I'm talking about us. Like most of us here, probably US citizens even, except a few immigrants. Only shortly they will, take care of them, fortunately. So put these civilized people like within this environment, they are so nice. Put them in another environment, they take their guns, start shooting every civilian they see, right? So that's what we're talking about. So just because we witnessing a stable point in the power dynamics, it doesn't mean that life is not based on clashes. It is based on clashes, and this clash for this moment ends up being not hitting each other. Is it a solution though? That's the question. Because then you have to, when we look at the, what is the outcome slide? Yeah. Well, fight between individual classes of society interpreting life is a clash, right? The last point is important. When you keep strategizing, your mind becomes tired of it after a moment. You feel so weak, alone, right? Useless, impotent, that you have to watch your back, every direction, actually. This type of life you end up with. Even though you're not hitting each other for a moment, but you're still watching them carefully. And this happens to all of us. Why? Because we are interpreting life, the social life, as a power dynamics. Survival of fittest, or strongest, or most cleverest, whatever.
And I guess as a person who get accustomed to this worldview so much, now this time you have an anecdote. When you visited a city they offered you some service.
Oh, yeah. So thank you. So that's what we do, like our memories, because we are getting old. We cannot memorize anything, so we have to help each other. Alhamdulillah, yeah. The cloud memory, yeah. So I visited a city in Turkey known for their hospitality, right? The Urfa. Walking with my wife, we just got married, walking on the street, and a gentleman, an old guy, comes and tells me that, oh, it looks like you are not from here. Right? Let me show you around. And the first thing comes to my mind is, oh, he will take advantage of us. He will get some money, like ask for money. For a whole day, he took us everywhere, like that we need to see. He was so nice. And then at the end, he's just saying bye, and I'm still waiting for the moment that he will ask for the money. Like after all these nice things. Of course he didn't. And he, like it was not this awkward moment that I should give, but I should have given, but I didn't. No, it was so natural that he didn't ask for anything. He even said, oh, I usually sit in such and such area. If you need me again, just let me know. I don't know anything else to do. Right? I was so ashamed. There's even better one. I'm in my home city now, in Turkey. I mean, the place I was raised. Sitting with my friends, eating something. A child, like almost probably same age with Bushra. He starts crying, shouting, oh, mom, where are you? What is the first thing comes to my mind? In Istanbul, so this is known for these tricky people and the similar. First thing comes to my mind. I still remember this with a huge shame. Oh, it's probably, the part of this game is he will trick me.
Pickpocketing.
Yeah. He's trying to hold my hand, and I'm so reluctant. Right? It took like I would say 20 seconds or so for me to realize that that was a real thing. He was lost and looking for mom.
Genuinely.
My entire world like a shudder. This is what type of person I am. And at that time, that's what I would call myself as a believer. I don't know. When things changed for me now, I'm not sure. What happens when someone asks you a direction today in Philadelphia? What is the first thing comes to your mind? I mean, there are a few gentlemen that they're part of this game. But for anyone else, what is the first thing comes to my mind? Especially if the person is from a certain ethnicity. This is the clash of forces, power dynamics embedded in our minds. And all of us, like if you didn't lose your humanity, it hurts you a lot. So that's the outcome. That's the society, civilized society we live in. Child is crying and you're watching your back. What he will do, the child.
So it's very nice and romantic, this vision you've outlined. But in my field, there's like one position that opens up, 600 people apply. Do I just say nope, no competition?
Oh. I hope you would say something else when we will talk about this something else, because the first one was so hard. Would you like to
answer it? Here is the question.
You are the competition expert.
Just a few words and everything is clear.
I think, just like going off what Brother Rikan said, the worldview of like the survival of the fittest, it turns into really, okay, I need to start second guessing everyone. I need to start seeing everyone as an enemy. They can be a snake that's going to bite me in the back. It completely destroys like the way I look at the world, and it hurts. I guess that's why we're saying, okay, this is the secular worldview that we need to try to cure or avoid. And it hurts me first and foremost, like, because I feel the compassion in me. Like when I see even the weakest person get hurt, I'm not like, yes, he deserves it or something. He's weak. I feel compassion. Like it's created in me to feel that compassion. Now coming to, I guess, like applying to these positions where you're like, okay, I need to beat everyone else. I guess the idea there is to not think about beating other people. Like your goal is not to steal the position from someone else or to take a limited resource because it's limited. I need to grab it before anyone else grabs it. Like the mindset would be, okay, I am, the authority is with my creator. We've been studying how he is the authority and he is the sustainer. He is the Rabb. And my responsibility is to apply and maybe take the steps interview. But it isn't to go and like try to like, go to the interview and like pour coffee on the other guys, or I don't know, just try to sabotage them somehow. Like it's not, I shouldn't see it as a war against them. I should see, okay, whatever my creator decrees is what I will get. So it's a much more, I will get what he gives me anyways. Like I don't need to go and like do wrong things to try to grab something with my own hand. I will open myself up to receiving. I'll do my responsibility, but I won't see it as like a clash, a fight over limited resources. Because actually the resources are abundant when I see that they're from my creator. It might be in a different way. I might not get that job and I might get something else and it might be not exactly what I wanted, but it will be in some other way I will get that resource.
So if we take a few steps back, if you don't mind, and maybe we can also pull up the Quranic ayah. It will help us a lot. A few words there. The Rabb, who's the Lord, right? Man Rabbi. So, like when you have a question, a serious question that you are really interested in, and when you read Quran with this question, Quran will really guide you with the certain words, the ayahs. And I think the Rabb here is maybe the key word. So if we take a few steps back and look at our reality again, I mean, let's not start with loaded answers like, oh, we rely on God. Let's look from our own perspective, the life. I am needy, and I have thousands of needs. I need to breathe. I need to exist. To our friend, I need to be loved. I need to love. I need to eat. I need to run. I need to walk. All these things, endless needs. I need health. I am needy and I cannot satisfy them. That's my reality, right? And you can look at the creation, as we said, from different lenses. So I feel like this, what is it called? The YouTube parents, they take their children, show everything about them and then get money. Yeah, I feel like that because we keep giving examples with our children. May Allah forgive us. But in general, children, right? So when you spend all your time with kids, that's what you become. Like you give all the examples with them. So children, they playing each other, or the siblings, right? Older sibling, younger sibling. What is the most common thing that you would see between them? Jealousy, they will say, right? They will start feeling jealous against each other, especially like if younger one, which needs more, let's say, compassion, mom hugs her, and the older one starts finding an excuse to cry or destroy the moment, or the vice versa. That's the reality, like facts in front of us. So how are we going to interpret this fact, right? Because everything changes when it comes to interpretation, not the facts. Like they keep telling that, oh, this is facts. They abandoning the facts, believe in science, believe in that, whatever. What they mean actually, accept our interpretation. Nobody cares about the facts. They all care about the interpretation. And you have to accept their interpretation. Anyway, a psychologist will come and tell you that, oh yeah, it is so common at this age, there will be jealousy between siblings, right? Innocent creature became jealous. When you think about it, it's very serious. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation, in the light of Quranic, the verses, look at your needs, satisfaction of these needs. And what we said, the human is created for infinite perfection. Anything else wouldn't satisfy us. A child being clearer a page than yourself, realize this better than you. A mom holds the child, other child sees that her needs may not be satisfied because mom, just like any other creature, is a limited being. Whatever she can provide, she wouldn't have enough, neither for her nor me, let alone two of us. Child realizes that. Child says as if, La ilaha illallah. The God I was imagining for me, my mom, is not God. Whatever she is providing is not enough for us. Child realizes this truth and starts crying out of it. What we name it though, we say, no, this is jealousy, the power dynamics. So when we look at the facts, your facts, right, there's one position, too many applicants. It is a fact. There's one resource there, and you have need like any other people. If you want to satisfy your need through this position, the position itself limited. Like everything in the creation. In creation, everything is imperfect. It cannot satisfy your need for perfection. This position cannot satisfy you. Even somebody else, even if you take the position, it will not satisfy you. So that's the reality. That's another interpretation. First interpretation would say, oh yeah, there's a limited resources, and that's all, because there's nothing beyond this world. You have to fight for it. Other interpretation would say, no. You are a needy being. This is a reminder for you to remind you that you are needy, and nothing in the universe can satisfy your needs. Look for something else out of this universe. And comes Rob into the picture now. Through this realization, you would say, okay, I need what? I need happiness, I need health, I need, well-being, food. And who have been providing all these years? Positions? This boss guy? No. Whoever satisfied my needs, whoever provided me so far, will provide me again, as Abdurrahman said, through something else, or this one, or something else, who knows? But this is just a reminder that this one position, which is not enough for everybody, is a reminder for the reality. It's not a conflict anymore. It's a teaching assignment. You say, Alhamdulillah, there is only one position. Otherwise, I would be in the darkness thinking that my work, the position will provide me. You say, Alhamdulillah, it reminded me that everything in this universe is limited and cannot satisfy my need. So these children, they are not jealous. They are so, pious. That's the reason they are crying. They're telling us, you're not my God. You're not my Lord. And we get angry when we say, don't cry. How dare you you listen to me? How dare you think what I give is not enough for me? They start crying even harder.
So in the light of this, then, can we revisit survival of the fittest? Like, is it an interpretation or is it a fact then? Because Qur'an's suggestion would be a universal fellowship across the board for the entire creation. So when this is, because the part that the documentary zooms in is when let's say a lion is eating a deer.
Not eating, sorry, devouring or like a destroying it. It has to be very dramatic.
Yeah. So this is the part that's being zoomed in, but is this just like any media? Is this another media trick? Or what is happening elsewhere in the picture? Like, for instance, this body has a billion whatever cells in it. Like, is this body really working with survival of the fittest? Or is it that the particles that I put into my mouth, because they're particles, and somehow they're going all this long journey and becoming part of this body, like the food that we just had in the breakfast is going to the help of these fingertips or whatever part of my body was in need of them. They went all the way to there. Like, is this a survival of the fittest, or is this a universal helping is going on? Because if you were to see that like a building, 200 people are living in the building, and somebody comes and delivers a load of food in the lobby, and then the food is being distributed to every room in the building according to their needs. What would you say about this? Because this is what's happening. I ate the food. The amount that was required for my eyes, for my brain, for my muscles, everything is distributed according to their needs. If you were to see such a building, you would say, oh, how nicely managed, how nicely coherent of a community is this building. They're not fighting with each other. So they're perfectly sharing the limited sources, which is whatever food was put in front of the building in the morning. They're beautifully, they shared it actually. They didn't fight with each other. And this is what's happening with all your bodies every day. This fellowship is going on, and I'm a first-hand witness of this fellowship. Actually, I benefit from this fellowship. If it was the other way around, and sometimes the Creator creates these exceptions so that I realize, like some of my cancer cells starts devouring it, and then I realize, oh, actually, the whole time I was living in a coherent community of cells in my body. They were not fighting with each other. They were not competing with each other to survive. Actually, they were collaborating with each other, all the units of my body. And you can generalize it, like plants. The whole creation is actually, or if you would like to go to planets, like in such a harmonious way that they are being created, if you would like to use religious terminology. Otherwise, the way that they are acting is such a coherent collaboration is taking place. Isn't this a bigger picture than what we are observing with a zoomed in lion versus deer, and the competition is happening in there? Because if I take it as such, oneness, the order in the universe is actually saying that it's coming from a single hand. This is what Qur'an is mentioning. And even with this verse, Rabbus samawati wal ard, the maintainer of heavens and the earth is one and only. What does this mean? This is the only proper explanation you can come up with to explain the order you see in the entire universe. In your body, microcosm, and in the macrocosm, you see observe the order. So what does this order mean? There's a coherent brotherhood, fellowship happening across the board. So this is why Qur'an's perspective would say every creature is a fellow or a friend of one another. When it applies to humanity, then it's going to become your fellow human brother. And like an example for this one, I mean, Sister Aisha will give the example of a job, but if it was a plate of food in this room, and we are, let's say, 40 people, will we fight for it? Let's talk about proper humanity. Or will we try to find the one who is the most hungry and share it with this person? Just ask to your humanity, as a human sense, you would like to share this plate of food which is about to die. And even in Quran, this is exemplified, like at the time when it was first revealed within Sahabi community. If food comes to one Sahabi, he says, although poor, gives it to another, saying that he is poorer than me, and the food comes back to the first person who first received the food. And Quran mentioned this as وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ. So they are choosing others rather than themselves. This is the proper outcome of such a worldview. Like if I read the creation as this brotherhood, sisterhood happening, when it comes to social domain, among the community, it's going to become this brotherhood. And when it comes to the level of states, then we are going to see it's another can of worms to open up, really. So was it really the case historically, or is it being the case today? But what would mean to when I'm going to talk about my neighboring country? Like this is how we were brought up in Turkey. Like Turkey,
we are experts with conflicts with neighbors.
So Turkey is surrounded by seas from 3 sides, but surrounded by enemies by 4 sides. Like this is the concept that was taught us from the first grade. So this is the mindset that you're growing up in contrast to if I go with Qur'an's. And Quran is not speaking just hypothetically, like Pollyanna. It would have been nice, wouldn't it?
They wouldn't know.
No, they wouldn't? Okay. So, but rather it is more starting from the existence itself, is why I wanted to bring it to, is it an interpretation or a fact? You do observe and benefit from this fellowship, brotherhood that you observe in the universe, in the existence. And this is the bigger picture. Occasionally, you do see competition here and there, and then you turn your face and say, look at the lion, what did the lion do?
Actually, like an example you gave about the food helping your body is the great example. Like, okay, like you just said, occasionally you see conflict, right? Let's maybe frame it this way. Occasionally you are shown how it would be if life was based on the conflict. So one great example is the allergy. So everything you put in your body helps your body, right? That's the normal order. Sometimes Creator, like to teach you, and out of mercy, tells you, do you know how it would look like if they were not helping your body? A dust particle, a tiny thing that you cannot even see. It decides, quote unquote, not to help. Gets into your body, your entire body starts fighting with this dust particle. Fighting so hard, you start sneezing, all these, the liquids coming from everywhere. You cannot even think straight, just a dust particle not helping. That would look like that, how it looked like when everything in the creation, all these particles, not helping each other. That's what we mean with the help. Right? Don't think it as, oh, my dear brother, come here. No, at the lowest level, most fundamental level. Everything put in such an order that there's a mutual benefit. Sometimes, again, out of mercy, this order is reversed to teach you what it looks like. Imagine if one dust particle decides not to help, and this is what happened in your body. Imagine everything in reality, as secularists would claim. Imagine we are living in a life where everything is constant conflict, and we're just observing some stability. If that's the case, what would happen to your body? Just imagine.
So you guys are saying that like order and mercy is more prevalent within the creation, but there is also conflict that is observable. And the purpose of that is to teach man his own impotence. So through that, to connect with his Lord. Is that the message that you are trying to convey? Or
Sounded good to me.
Maybe we could, if you're not.
yeah, I'm just so on one hand, like yeah, like especially like in the season that we are in, right? There is like all kind of like beauty you observe right now outside, like when you go. So like there is a beauty, there's an like perfection manifesting in the environment, creation. But on the other hand, like through the experience, like in life, you do experience conflict too, which it seems like no one is able to deny it so far. So then like the question becomes like order is more prevalent, but at the same time conflict also like exists. Then what's the purpose of it?
So I think at our perception, understanding at this within the context of today's discussion, we do see conflicts, especially whenever there is choice involved. For example, at least personally speaking, I wouldn't consider me eating a plant as a conflict because, I mean, I am killing the plant, but I would rather consider it as plant is being sent to help my needs by my maker, because I am made in a way that this plant, in a way to benefit from this plant, and this plant is coming to the service of me. How can I come to this conclusion? Because one could say that, I don't know if such a type exists, but the type exists for at least vegetarianism, where same thing applies to animals as well. Like, is human killing the animal like a survival of the fittest type of a thing? Or is it saying that, look at how the creation is, how the universe is taking place, at the particular level, those help is happening, and then plants, animals, human, like there's this chain of relationship in there. But my maker is making this animal a helper for me, and in his name, I am taking him. So in this case, for example, it's not seeing as a conflict, but rather same event, because my the documentary friend could take a video of us during the Eid, and they would say, look at the barbarism in here. But if you look at it from my lens, and actually, I know some brothers who, when they are slaughtering the animal, they are becoming so sensitive. So it's not really like killing the animal in this sense. The verbiage is totally different, but it's not a conflict, but again, another type of a mutual friendship relationship is going on in there. If I see it with this lens, then maybe I'm not going to see any conflict at all. But for today's discussion level, I feel like we are not there yet. We are not looking at things at this detailed level, and not to see any conflict at all. But when I see from outside, at least, a falcon chasing a sparrow, this detailed perspective would have been that, in fact, since the creator of the sparrow and the creator of the falcon is the same, actually the creator of the sparrow makes falcon a teacher to the sparrow to teach how to fly. Maybe falcon is aware of this, not aware of this. It's a separate story. But this becomes, again, my interpretation of this fact. But without having this perspective, and this is being like a stage 2 perspective, I would say, which is going a little beyond today's discussion, I would see a apparent conflict in there.
So then there are stuff that is seemingly in conflict with your emotion. Because like in the example of sparrow and the falcon, you don't want the sparrow to be the victim and your emotions react to it. But like at the same time, falcon has to eat too. So like there seems to be some like seemingly, as far as you are concerned, you are conflicted within yourself because naturally you are want to see perfection in everything that you see, like that you experience. But within that specific example, you don't observe that mercy. And that is what like you are emotionally reacting to. And that's what the conflict is.
And you are being given with this feeling of discomfort. And at this moment, I should also ask, since this feeling is not a natural consequence of the event that I'm observing, this is why further becomes interpretation then makes sense. Like seeing this scene, I am having this disturbing feeling. If possible, I would like to get rid of it, but I'm not able to. Then I say, what is the message if I try to read it in the name of Rob, who creates? What is the message of this disturbance when I see this scene? So I'm not meant to like conflict. And hence it is becoming a teaching experience. This is why it is not in the big picture. The conflict is not in the big picture, but being put in there to teach me that your maker doesn't like it. This is why everywhere else he shows you the order and the brotherhood, the fellowship. But as an example of this, when you see such apparent conflicts, you get disturbed, and it's being like a wake-up call to say that I don't like this.
Then it's like okay to say that, like if you try to make sense of experiences within the events, like within the universe itself, in that case, like it is inevitable, like everything will seemingly be conflict. Even like breathing is going to be conflict, because like you breathe to like survive, but like with every breath that you take, like bringing you one closer to that which you do not want. So yeah, so like
Other
and that you are not also happy with that either. So like then you are saying that like if you do not bring the I guess the maker of the like the falcon, yourself, your emotions, and the sparrow into the occasion, and no matter like how you interpret, it is going to be always survival of fittest and conflict. Otherwise, like there is no way to get out of that like mindset or perception.
sort of. There is one more question, if you don't mind. Back to the lady.
So I have a comment that might lead to a question with like, so I mean, here we're like kind of comparing like secularism with the Quran, or secular worldview with the Quranic worldview, and we're putting like secularism in the like the bad light, and you know the like the goodness that we see or we should see should come from the Quran. And we're saying that one of the views like of secularism is to view the world in which like everything is in conflict, the survival of the fittest. At any point I can be, stabbed, my back, whatever. But there's also another secular view, which we might have not attained yet, but it is there. The idea is there that we can still live in a fellowship, in harmony with each other and with nature as well. So for example, we don't need to exploit all the resources. We don't need to enslave anyone. We don't need to exploit any other country. And we will still have like a good life, healthy. There will be more justice in this world. We might not have like the standards that we want now, but maybe even that life is healthier and better for everyone. And it has nothing to do with the Quranic view. It is still a secular view. And even like when it comes to the falcon and a sparrow, this kind of view would say we as humans, we kind of like, we are better than that. We overcame that. Like we are now at this level of conscience and at this level of humanity that we don't need to chew on each other. We don't need to prey on each other. We can live with each other in harmony. And there is some competition, but that's okay, because like I can accept that because I'm not born in the same condition as someone else. So at any moment there will be someone better suited to something than me, smarter than me, or can use the resources around me, like around them better than me. So
everything that kind of fits with what you're saying, but this is not a Quranic worldview. This is also a secular worldview. So why should I take the Quranic view and not this kind of like a secular view, if both of them should lead like to the same thing?
So, before we start with answering, just to remind something. And I apologize, we couldn't make it clear, which is, as we said, like at the beginning, I said there are two alternatives at the most fundamental level. It's always black or white. Okay, this is how Quran also talks. Like it talks in the theoretical level, black and white, but in practice we find ourselves, in between. That's for sure. So what we're talking here, when we say secular worldview, all these different variations, of course, in practice, but there are some certain fundamental assumptions shaping all of them. Okay? Here we're trying to talk about these fundamental assumptions. And when we say Quranic worldview, you can take it as religious worldview and so on.
Biblical.
Or biblical, doesn't matter.
From Revelation is
Yeah.
the point.
The point is a worldview from Revelation, which says, like, for instance, talks about the Malikul Mulk as a concept, owner of the state, the farm, the land. This is exactly opposite. It's no matter what practical differences you talk about, doesn't matter. There's always a opposition there. The Revelation would say everything in this life, everything in this creation is just one land shaped and taken care of by one creator. That's the message there. On the opposite would say, no, everything, every individual thing, including particles or human body, doesn't matter. Every individual thing is by itself, for itself, right? And they have their own dominion. That's the opposition. So, your example, for instance, humanism, as we nowadays say, humanism would talk about all these fancy things, nice things, and the nicety itself is nice. Like if you show me a nice cake, I don't care whether it is made by, someone I don't like or I like. It's a nice cake. It's a fact. And if I eat it, I enjoy it. The same way, if I'm in a harmony, quote unquote, with everything else, I would enjoy it. Yes, that's something I enjoy. Doesn't matter who says it. But the question is, starting from this assumption that everything has its own dominion and everything rules itself, can you attain such an outcome or not? That's the fundamental theoretical question that we are asking. And the answer, if you ask me, and that's what we're trying to convince, the answer is absolute no. If life is based on conflict and the most fundamental level, even for this humanism, it is based on conflict. Why? Because you have to use the language of limited resources. And the people who need them, we should distribute them equally. This is a language of conflict. Because there are limited resources there. If you count them, it is less than who needs them. So there is a conflict to begin with. There is no one order of things. So for instance, number of oranges, according to this humanist view, determined by what? Nothing. Blind forces. Natural, whatever they call. Mother Nature. to make it more romanticized, right? It means it's determined by nothing. We are unlucky that we have 10 oranges today. So unlucky, firstly, this is the beginning point. And on top of that, you try to optimize it. Going back to other assumptions that we talked today. Everything for itself, and then there's no one governing. There's no meaning, right? In the name of the number of oranges. There is no future that is there. Based on this assumption, can you get humanism that you claim? No way. As I said, there will be some stable points. But as long as it is based on such a conflict, such a blind force, such a random chance, you will look at yourself, you would say, I have infinite needs. I want all of these oranges for myself, you would say. But you have to, accept only one orange, otherwise we will kill each other. Let's only have one orange, so that we don't kill each other. That's the solution provided. What is the alternative now? Quran says, I determine number of oranges. I determine your need. I determine who gets it, who doesn't get it. And among, within each decision, there's a mercy, Quran claims. So imagine a worldview in which everything in your life carefully designed, all choices, and they are choices, not blind forces, carefully made by the one who knows everything, the most merciful. How can we even compare these two worldviews? Who cares what they claim? They claim prosperity in Gaza, for instance. They say, oh yeah, we will take over there, right? This new president. We will take over there. We will rebuild it, make it most prosperous, whatever land.
Create new jobs.
Create new jobs. You just killed thousands of children. How am I going to believe that you will create prosperity?
But they brought freedom to Iraq, though.
Yeah, okay, that's a good example. Another example I cannot explain. Sorry, yeah. How am I going to believe that a stability, a prosperity, happiness can emerge if everything at the most fundamental level is in conflict? I mean, it really needs to be so naive to fall in such trap. And no offense, but we see that most quote-unquote humanists are really so naive. I mean, you look at the way they live their life, and so you really need to be naive.
So I guess the natural, if you like, or logical outcome of these fundamental assumptions is at societal level killing each other. Yet we are trying to build without touching those fundamentals, saying that, okay, let's come up with a nicer worldview. Let's not kill each other, but limit how people are reproducing so that we are not going to have limited, like putting some sort of different things, because killing sounds so brutal, but we just say, let's limit reproduction of lower classes, because still, if you're rich, I mean, you're worthy to increase in numbers, but if you're coming from an underrepresented or, like, for whatever reason, lesser people, you better not, like, this is becoming the inevitable outcome. So this is why sounds nice, but unlikely to work because of where it's coming from and where it's going to. I guess this is why we need to be careful for where will this take me to. So, okay, this was survival of the fittest. Ooh, another can of worms. If you go with the chat, it's good.
While you open the chat, like one anecdote, one example, like a very practical one. Today, and not today, a few years ago, we lived in the society where the like a liberty, like what is it called?
Liberty.
Liberty, or like just being free, liberal, and so on was the most, the common thing. What we experienced in that society, like the people were liberals. They were saying that, oh yeah, we are pro this, pro that, pro whatever, putting all these cartoons in front of their house, which is good. Like we love, the Muslims, we love homosexuals, we love all this. They would list, right? What we experienced in that society, oppression. What kind of oppression? You have to accept my type of liberty. You have to open your house to everything I list there. Like I say, I love homosexuals as well. You have to love them too. What happens if not? We will fire you.
This was 6 months ago, though.
Yeah.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
Just the opposite.
Oh, so,
Isn't that Qur'an worldview?
so loving people is, yes, Quranic worldview. But Quranic worldview, what is the one fundamental thing? There is no oppression in religion, it says, right? Compassion, yes. So if we're talking about a true Islamic society, as long as you are part of the society, meaning you are not an anarchist, right? You can live your life with your own rules, right? Unless, again, you are an anarchist, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if the liberties are based on conflict, the outcome has to be oppression. There's no escape from that. One type of oppression or another type of oppression.
I mean, I don't know if I understand, but it feels like that there's a basic opposition between a scarcity mindset at the origin of the secular view of the world and an abundance mindset that we receive from the Quran. Like, there are so many moments in the Quran when we're told that, in fact, the creation is abundant, and that if we don't have enough, if we have enough, we should share what we have with people who don't have anything, right? So, at least for me, this is what's the most striking thing of the revelation of the Quran, this basic abundance that we are called to acknowledge and abandon the fear of scarcity. And because I think the scarcity mindset in capitalism is at the origin of all kinds of, wars and exploitation. Even when, a liberal might say, oh, let's create the perfect world where inevitably, because it's a thought based in scarcity, there will always be someone who is exploited, right? Maybe in remote colonies that nobody sees, So just basically, I think that the greatest thing of that I feel reading the Quran is this how do you say, basic embracing this abundance that God has given us.
So another very striking outcome of so we go with this, or yeah. So another striking outcome of the distinction between secular worldview and Quran is, so this identity is that Quran is suggesting secularism is putting tribes, clans, ethnicity, race, skin color, your shared history, your culture. These are what identifies you. These are the things that makes you, since I am, like in the second session, we talked about I am, like I am a strong person. I'm coming from this and that family. I am smart. I am this. When it comes to at the level of society, this personal ego becomes we. We are such warriors. We are such strong people. Or our ancestors have been ruling this land and that land. So it becomes, if you like, a national level ego, which is nationalism. And what's the outcome of that? What's wrong with nationalism? Is it wrong? Is Qur'an against nationalism? Or what's wrong with nationalism?
So it's a sensitive topic, I'm sure. This gentleman is proud of his nation.
Islamic country of Pakistan. Okay, Islamic.
That's a good example, right? It's a made-up country. So.
Okay. About to start.
He's still very proud of it, yeah. I mean, yeah, Turkey is a real country for sure. Yeah. Well, I guess, like, again, not get lost in the practical details, but the difference in the at the fundamental level is that just like you think that you have authority over your own body, your thoughts, yourself, basically, you also extend it and say that, okay, my nation also, or my clan, whatever it is called, because today we call it nation. It was not there like 200 years ago. Nobody would talk about nations. 200 years from today, who knows what will happen? So there's a sketch actually about it. Like, that's so funny. A black guy, a bald black guy, gets into prison. And he says, okay, I learned that in the prison, you have to find yourself a gang to survive. And he's looking for a gang to join, right? He looks at one side is other black people having a gang stuff. Another side, white people having a gang style. But all these white people are bold, right? Because this, what is it called? White supremacy, whatever. Like the Nazi folks, that they're all bold. He look at himself, I'm bold, okay, they bold. So I should be joining them, right? So it's so arbitrary when you think about it. Like what part you are part, like what gang you are part of. You can say that, okay, this is the gang of Poles, or this is the gang of Nazi, or this is the gang of black, whatever. It's so arbitrary when you think about it. It's like, especially when it comes to skin color, like it's so really hard to understand how humanity get lost in such a made-up thing. Like, how do you decide what is white and what is black when you have all colors? Anyway, so let's not get lost in these details. But the fundamental thing is that you say that, okay, this arbitrary defined thing has a superiority over, or an authority over other things, right? That's the worldview. And what happens necessarily, as Sister Sarah said, occasionally we may have prosperity and friendship, right? Certain countries love each other, which means they don't have any reason to fight yet. Once they have a reason to fight, you know that they become worst enemies. Or they become worst friends. I mean, who would imagine that the US would become the best the friend of Russia? It happened, right? Are we going to say that, oh, everything is getting better, stabilization and so on? No, they're the mutual interests and so on aligned. That's how they see the world. But the Quranic worldview would say, no, no, no, we put you into these groups. So you will look at the differences between you. But then imagine how this all, like despite all these differences, we have all these commonalities, like creating almost like a contrast, right? Despite all these differences, we have such fundamental commonalities, taking your mind to like a question of how so that you can reach to the single source who creates all these variety, right? The emphasis becomes the commonality and the single source of the variation from a Quranic worldview. So that's the fundamental difference. So you would say, okay, but in Islamic countries, we still have these, the terrible nationalism and so on. We're not talking about people who call themselves Muslim or Islam, like a country is Islamic. We're talking about the fundamental teachings of Quranic worldview.
Then maybe we can use it from reverse. Like, is this Islamic? Then,
Yeah, exactly.
like just naming it, since the outcome seems to be no different than what the secular world is suggesting. It's just, again, I guess, another way of quoting it with title of Islam, but naming it doesn't make it Islam anyway.
And today, Islam or Muslim became what? Not a belief, not a conviction, identity. It's a nationalism. We say we are Muslims. What do we mean? Like, I don't know what ties us, but let's become together so that we become stronger. That's what we mean when we say we are Muslims. Not all the time, but most of the time. To protect ourselves against other identities. Or at least they will respect us and do not harm us. So it's all about the identity, nationality again.
And that nationality, as you mentioned, like some sort of superiority we are claiming based on skin color or whatever it is, based on history, based on culture, like we use 15 different type of spoons and whatever eating, but you guys are eating with hands. So our culture versus your culture, one is better than the other for whatever reason, one is better than the other. So this being the thing we take as what would unite us. In contrast, what does Qur'an suggest for uniting people? So, or secular Muslim claim. So, one verse, as now here is mentioned, then we revealed to you, follow the faith of Abraham, the upright, who was not one of the polytheists. So Quran and another verse would say, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, not إِنَّمَا الْمُسْلِمُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, like the Muslims with uppercase M, as we would call it today, are brethren, brothers, sisters, but believers are brothers and sisters. So what unites them is Iman, the conviction, the security that they arrive, which we can briefly discuss what Iman is in this context. But Iman is the thing that unites people together. And in this verse also, so the millah, or the faith of Ibrahim, is what is being suggested to be united under. So what does it mean? How is it different than a nation state's nationalism tying people together? And also, if you can tie this back to our fundamentals. One was saying that I own myself, and as a consequence of it, we own ourselves, we are strong, as being the nationalist output. On the other hand, no, I am being given, I am being created, and then the outcome is going to be Iman as the bonding point. How does this work?
So, I guess in this sense, Iman is like a facilitator of this binding, in the sense that when you realize that you are created and he is also created, I have needs, he also needs, and my need is directly satisfied by my creator, who also satisfy him as well. It creates, like by definition, now we become the fellow of the same journey, right?
Fellow creatures, can you say?
Fellow creatures, yes, exactly. Because creatures, because not only human beings, also the chair, it is created by the same source in the same artful manner. So it has its own, or it deserves its own like a respect as well, just like my body or my friends. Not because, as Sister Sarah said, let's try to find an harmony within this conflict. No. By definition, the harmony is there because we are created by the same source with the same love, same mercy, same wisdom, same. It's like the different pieces of the same artwork. Again, mulk. It's not a random place. It's a place that is being taken care of, including all of us, right? So when Prophet ﷺ mount on his, let's say, camel, he would say salam to his camel, right? Or even when passing by. Why? A fellow creature. Right? We are the what is it? Companions in the same journey. So the same way, when you get into your car, what is the first thing you do? Open the door after that. Right before turning on the engine, you say Salaam alaikum, right? My dear companion, right? Your camel. Why you respect? In the bigger scale as well, you say all these different people, just like myself, having all these needs and enjoying how these needs satisfied by their creator, knowingly or unknowingly, some of them showing me the ways that I should act. Some others showing me the ways that I should abandon. So I'm happy for them as well. I say, Alhamdulillah, they are also created to teach me not to do things. So everything in that sense, in this, the level of creation is a fellow. So it doesn't mean that someone is trying to hit you and you say, oh, no, at the level of creation. What he's trying to do, unconsciously maybe, he's trying to harm you, yes? And you are created in the mindset or feeling set that you should abandon that and also maybe hit him back, I don't know, whatever feeling is created. But this creation itself, you say, this is teaching me something. This is teaching me justice or injustice. So maybe consciously, he's trying to do the opposite, to harm me, but unconsciously, he's my fellow in the sense that he's part of the training. He's teaching me injustice. And I'm glad for that. Not the injustice itself. Because when I see an injustice, the same creator also creates a feeling in me that go and fight against it. So if I take this feeling as mine, oh, I feel this way. These poor people are dying. When I attribute ownership over this feeling, going back to the first session, I'm lost. I would say there's a conflict there. But when I say this feeling of hatred against injustice, also created, I don't have any authority over my feelings. The feeling also is created by the same source. So with these, almost like a movie, like the creator is creating a movie in front of me and putting things in me, and through them, I am being trained. In that sense, they are my fellows. Otherwise, yes, if he hits me, I will hit him back. Not as hard as him, but I will try at least.
And I think it's important that fellowship is being defined in terms of Iman, because Iman is the necessary conclusion that you reach about what makes this existence. So Iman starts from the existence here, like things are happening, baby is born, I am living life. This cannot happen by itself. There must exist an all-knowledgeable, all-powerful, all-wise creator. This is the Iman, the conclusion, starting from the life that you live. So it's really sitting on top of your experiences. And the conclusion is an inevitable conclusion. A so strong conclusion. That's why it's called Iman, security. But when it comes to nationalism, what was it starting from? I am strong. I am smart. I am handsome. I am beautiful. Like these sort of baseless claims.
It's very basic.
So I am claiming ownership over them. And even I don't own them. And then just taking this at the national scale, like we are a courageous nation. We are very good warriors. Since it's baseless, the conclusion also being baseless, but on a baseless, as you said, arbitrary thing, we are fighting with each other. So this is why one has to fight and doesn't take you anywhere. But Quran putting Iman at the center is, which will take us to the next step, at the basis of Quran's perspective is the experiences that you live, the existence, but inevitably they lead you to an all-wise creator. Otherwise, you cannot explain it. When it comes to justice, then, one would say that what defines justice as a consequence of it, again, we are going with the basic tenets of where we started from. I own myself. As a consequence of it, at the society level, it would say that force determines what's right, what's wrong. Like in this power dynamics that's happening, so what is right would be whichever is going to win, whichever has more power. Would you like to exemplify?
So maybe we can go with Sister Sarah's example. She said, like that was a beautiful example. Thank you. She said, maybe we are not there yet, but we can choose to become better than Falcon and the Sparrow, right? So the idea there is like, what is the right thing to do? The answer is what we choose to do is right. So I am becoming, let's say, a better person. I say, you know what? From now on, let's treat each other better. And that becomes the truth. What is the basis of it? I feel this way. As a society, we feel this way. So it's in my choice, in one sense. But when you have a fundamental conflict, and every individual is by himself, for itself, and so on, there is always this question lurking. What if they decide something else next? So there's no escape from that within such a worldview. Like, to get rid of such a question, you have to imagine that humanity becoming just one, meaning humanity becomes God. You have to make humanity God to have the perfect harmony, which is stupid anyway. Because to begin with, you are needy, powerless, impotent in every sense. And you say that if we become God, we will attain harmony. It's impossible. It's not your reality. And your reality with such assumptions will inevitably lead to conflict, fight, injustice. Why? Another basic tenet of the secularism was, did we put it? Is hereafter part? No, right? Okay, no worries. Why this happens? Sorry. This necessary conflict happens. Another tenet of the secularism was there's nothing beyond this life, right? Meaning everything is limited. You only live once. You only have this moment. With such assumptions, There's no escape from injustice. There has to be injustice. Why? What is just, you would say. We choose what is just and what is not just. From time to time, we will say because of our conscience, maybe. Conscience means listening to revelation. Right? It's because conscience is type of revelation specific to you. When you listen to revelation, you would say that, you know what, let's not kill each other. I mean, this is too much. All these countries used to supporting this country. We cannot use the name, right? Not to get fired. We are living in such a civilized nation. They, at least some of them, they said, oh, come on, this is enough. I mean, up until 6,000 children, that was okay. But after 7,000, no. Yeah, there will be such moments. But what I'm trying to say is injustice we see is not by chance. It is inevitable because of these fundamental basic assumptions.
And I guess in practice, force determining the truth. Like, what does this mean? It sounds a little like there are two ways to understand this. Let's first go with the easy one. Like normally, killing was bad, but if it is to our benefit and if we are strong enough, we are able to frame it nicely to say that actually it is father's responsibility to protect the child, because like father is hiding behind the child. I mean, what could I have done? And this becomes the truth, really. Nowadays, this is the word, right? Like the father wronged me, and I was going to like fight with the father. But since he was at his home, and I knocked the door, he didn't come out. He stayed in. Like, what else could I have done? Of course, I was going to blow up the house. So it's father's responsibility the child is killed. And I guess this became the truth. Like, we are not even able to today, in today's world at least, not even challenge this truth. So what happened? The powerful one distorted the truth because he is strong enough. And you're not able to even speak against it in today's society. At the highest level, this is how, with this mindset, the force determined what is right and what is wrong. But in another scale, if large numbers of people share your conviction, then it becomes truth in today's society as well. Another way of truth, like if I find enough number of people to think that like white skin is better, then I will make a country in which having a darker skin is not a good thing. And we have seen examples of this, and even we are calling it democracy, if the name sounds familiar. But this is being the basis of truth, majority vote. Majority vote becomes the basis of truth, in all sense of the word, though. And we talked about people, and at the basic level of my convictions, if my convictions are like, if you see, so let me give an example. If you see a person abusing a child, would you trust this person to become the president? You wouldn't like to trust that person for anything bigger. You wouldn't even trust your child, let alone the country. Now, at the basis, we were talking about the person saying that I am strong. I am a God. Such a liar. Such a liar is the person. And now, would you trust this person's opinion about what is right, what is wrong? Because at such a fundamental level, this person is a liar. And now I'm going to combine 1 million of these people to determine what the truth is. So, and in this case, quantity, large numbers of people's opinion becomes the measure of my truth. This is where we are. If you have enough number of people, I mean, of course, practically it's more so with money, power, And this is how the truth is being practically distorted in today's world. And this is why truth becomes whatever the strong guy, the media tycoon or whatever wants to be the truth. But apart from this, even if it was this humanitarian society, even in there, it would be that if enough number of people thinks in this way, it would have become the truth, irrespective of this has any basis or not. So what's going to be the measure of truth? What the truth itself should become the source of power. Like if this person is truly deserving something, then I should give them the right. But where would I take this truly deserving part? This is where then, when it comes to Quranic worldview, a person who can declare that I don't know, as was mentioned in the previous session. So asked to read, and the response is being that I don't know how to read. Teach me how to read. If a person can confess this level of neediness and that is taught by the maker, then we can talk about this as a reference point of truth.
And in practice, how it works, you accept the fact that truth is not something that you shape, right? It is in the hands of the owner of the creator of everything. It's in his hand. And in practice, I will just try to find it. So for instance, if I'm in a place of making judgments, I would say, okay, based on my, the evidence in front of me, I will make a decision, but my decision is not the truth. Through my decision, I'm trying to find the truth. If it aligns with the truth, I'm on the right path. If not, I'm on the wrong path. So I seek refuge to the owner of the truth to make a wrong decision, right? But no matter what I decide, does not change what is truth. I accept the fact that I might be wrong. I will try my best not to be wrong. I will make a decision because I have this responsibility. And I would say this is the best I can do. If I am wrong, somebody should correct me. This is just the opposite of the way we are living right now. We say we make this decision, and it is the fact now. It is this norm, we say. This is the norm, meaning this is the truth. There's no, let's say, reason to somebody warn me. We already made the decision. This is what human is. This is what society is. It's all defined. We don't feel this fear of being wrong anymore.
There's one question. See how enthusiastically he's taking the microphone now.
So I don't know, I have so many comments, but so first I felt like we're kind of conflating the American society and culture and like political scenario with like secularism, which I don't think is like, there are different, as I said before, like there's humanism, for example, and different countries follow different type of secularism. They have a different type of democracy, and they are doing, I guess, better than the US. I mean, I understand you're giving the society we live in as an example, but I don't think this is like what represents, like the US does not, while they might claim it, of course, they, carry the torch that we are like the democracy, secularism, freedom, whatever, but we, at least maybe here, or maybe me as a person, I don't believe they do. But that doesn't mean I don't believe that there is another better version of secularism, better than the American version of it. And then another thing I would like, and these countries are doing better, maybe, at least if any, like, maybe a European would say we are doing better than the US when it comes to human rights, when it comes to, I don't know, other things, like we're not interfering in other countries, you know, like we're not inciting conflicts in other countries. So I feel like we're giving example of the US, but US is kind of like a special case because now in the time we live in, the US is like the most, kind of like the most powerful country and so on. But I feel like I don't think we should, yeah, I don't think secularism, like US is a good example of like secularism as an idea that we had, like not only political idea, but also a way of life, let's say. So that's one thing. Another thing, any person would say that, and this has happened before, like this discussion, I'm not making this up. They would say that democracy is the best thing we have now. Like, I understand, like, I even told that person that, how could the majority rule? What if the majority is stupid, you know, would be ruled by like a decision made by a bunch of stupid people? That doesn't make sense. But then the question is, what's the alternative? Like, this is nice, but like, where's, like, I think maybe, I don't know if I'm the only person, but I'm missing the practical example. Like, how can this be applied? Another thing, like, I would think about, like, in the Quran, of course, it doesn't say the majority should win, but it says وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُم, right? Like, it should be like conflicts should be more like a discussion between the believers or something, and they should reach, I guess, it shouldn't be the majority. I think it should be, we should reach the best for the greater good, let's say, the best scenario possible. We should apply that, let's say, where everyone benefits. I don't know if that's the Quran, what the Quran means. I don't think so, but I mean, at least I think this is what democracy or secularism tries to say, you know, like we should apply something that is like guarantees as much goodness as like possible, I would say. Yeah, I think I'm just rambling, but I just feel like there's the practical example is missing, especially that historically speaking, like, let's say the Prophet ﷺ was the best of them all, and he was the best in everything, right? As being an abd, of course, but he also gave us practical example because he was a husband, as you said, he was a father, he was a political leader, he was so many things. And then after him, supposedly the best people after him ruled, right? Like the people who spent time with him, who knew him, who like supposedly also applied his message in the best way possible, but there was still conflict. Like, I'm not talking about like, you know, later on the Islamic Khilafah, so I'm talking right after the Prophet, people we believe supposedly were like the best after him, but there was still conflict. There was like, I don't know, like, I feel like I cannot imagine how like a society following the prophetic message, like the real prophetic message should look like. I feel we don't have that an example, and that's why when I hear about it, it sounds nice, it sounds very ideal, but it's very far from reality. And that's why then we will, any other person would say, okay, let's stick to what we have. It seems like to be the best option we have now. You know, otherwise, I don't know what kind of like what kind of rule we will live in, what kind of like politics we will live in, or so. It seems like this is the best we have. You know, you're giving us something nice, but it doesn't seem to be applicable, I would say. So, yeah.
I think if we are okay with being away from ideal, if you are okay with not 100% achieving ideal is okay, because otherwise, if it's not perfect, I'm not taking it. If you are not at this mindset, which seems to be applicable when it comes to democracy, I would say we can apply the same attitude to Quranic message as well, because as we have been discussing the theoretical basis of it, one of them in its theoretical basis is build up on lies in the individual level, in society level, and still we are trying to optimize it. How about putting humans' neediness at the basis, and in response to this neediness, thanking the creator and taking the creator as the teacher, as the guide, and what we can achieve in this sense. I think this would be a worthy cause to follow. And the second is, historically speaking, if you are going to go with this, like prophetic life had been an example of this. Yes, right after the prophet, conflicts have happened, but the nature of the conflicts that happened after the prophet is different than the nature of the conflicts that happened after the fourth Khalifa as well. Like, it's not the same nature of conflict that was happening within this 30-year period and after this period. Like, making both conflicts taking them as the same type of conflict would also mislead us. Because after fourth Khalifa came in the secular version of nationalism. Like, first power came in and then nationalism came in. This was not the case with the first four Khalifa, though.
Our family is the rulers, right? That's what it's come for after for Khalifa, the ones who claim that our family is created for ruling. So we should rule it, our family, nationalism.
Like, first it was the power should support religion, because four Khalifa were not in the mindset of we need to get strong to distribute the message of Qur'an. They were saying that if it is going to go against the truth, we are not going to. I mean, our mindset of jihad is also very crooked in this sense, because historically, any war that is made by a quote-unquote Muslim king, we call it jihad because they call it jihad. But is it really jihad? Needs to be a huge question mark. So this is why the Khilafah period expansions needs to be considered separately. And then what happened after the kingdom came in needs to be discussed separately. What came after Yazid with nationalism needs to be discussed separately. So, but when we are then talking about the conflicts that happened at the time of Sahaba, because then this was a conflict of opinion. And this one is where we are. And because when the Prophet was there, revelation comes, and then the Prophet applies the revelation, and they know that this version of understanding is set to stone by the Creator and approved. So there's nothing to dispute. But when it comes to revelation is there today, and we have different perspectives about the same, and then comes like, is this the correct way to understand? Is that the correct way to understand? Now this is a place to have not necessarily forceful conflict, but an intellectual conflict needs to be there. And that is, conversation is happening in there. And that has to happen. There's no other way that, I mean, we cannot imagine in which we will take Quran and then we will say, everybody in this room will say that this is the only understanding. That would be super naive to say that a verse has a single meaning. This is a super naive understanding. It cannot happen. So this being the case, definitely there's going to be a difference of opinion. This is where there's going to be a conversation. But when this conversation is happening, again, we will bring evidence, as Imam Ali did, from the practices of prophets, rather than linguistic tricks of Quran, like how can I bend it to my thought rather than the other's thought. Still, we are trying to liken it to prophetic practice. And we will try to merge somewhere, convert somewhere. So that conflict is not survival of the fittest type of a conflict, because the endeavor is to find truth as long as we are honest about believers are brethren, like ikhwatun. As long as we can trust this being the bond, then the ultimate goal is to find the truth. And since we don't have access to the truth as Prophet did, then we will need to turn around it. And even this was the case with when Aisha radiallahu anha had the battle with Imam Ali. So it is a matter of how to interpret justice. One understood it correctly, the other one did not, relatively speaking. But the intention was not to like overcome or win. It was not survival of the fittest. It is interpretation of the truth. So this is different than what is being mentioned in here, because in here the idea is I am the truth. I set the standard. But in this way, so this is why I would consider the 30th year of Khilafah period still a good example of how truth can be searched, sought by people as something that is being given by my Creator. So this being the case, since the example is there, if we are willing to, we would say it's applied among humans. It's not only something that appears nice on the paper, but it's applied among the people, and it worked. So it's open for us to reevaluate it, because theoretically, on the basis, it should work. When it comes to humanitarianism, it should not work on the paper because the tenets are rotten. And when it comes to outcomes, I mean, Europe is sitting on the blood of colonialism, and nobody's going and seeking forgiveness from Africans, even today. So what sort of humanitarianism we are talking about? So it might, like, they might be very nice or smiling towards the face of the people that they abused for so long. And still today, if you go to Europe as an immigrant, still you are the third-class citizen. I mean, even on paper, I mean, not only culturally. So I don't see the picture that nice, or it's a better version than America. I mean, slightly, sure. But so this is why I would say, still, I don't see any better option, practically speaking, than what Revelation has put forth and was implemented. And even in the times of kingdoms and whatnot of Islamic civilization, still you would see a better version of secular Muslimness than today's secular world, because nationalism was a secular idea, but was implemented right after Prophet. Like, it crept in with Yazid how many years later after Prophet. So it was right there. It was a secular idea being implemented by a quote-unquote Khalifa, so-called Khalifa back then. But we should be courageous enough to say that it was wrong, it is wrong, even today it is wrong.
It is wrong because of the fundamental. We have Aisha, like 2 minutes for you, and then 1.5 minutes for
I'll try to keep it to a minute. I just had a general comment, maybe to the first question that Sada had asked, because it had me thinking about if this was specific to the US or not. And I'm sure there are cultural elements, but I was just thinking of how, like, you know, like what I gather from today's presentations is that the way, regardless of the intricacies of how a certain country governs or whatnot, I mean, like Japan, UK, they have ministers of loneliness, you know. Clearly there's something there that is also not working, and perhaps other countries too. But I was just thinking that regardless of the intricacies of government, regardless of whether we want to call it secularism or something else, the way in which I experience society, I experience my relationship to others in this society, is such that I end up feeling burdened. I end up feeling in conflict with others. I end up feeling anxious and somehow unable to feel secure in just my way of being. And this is the sort of solution that is offered to me. If I'm unsatisfied with that, then I look for an alternative. And the Quran gives me this alternative and says, hey, this is actually what you need of. I can see if that remedy, apply it and see if it helps. But I have to first see if I am experiencing that discontent, right, with what is currently being offered to me, which is setting me up to be enemies with everyone, which is setting me up with a scarcity mindset, which is setting me up with feelings of constantly trying to provide for myself, but never being fully able to. So I think just on a, you know, like when I have to check in with myself to see, is this my reality? Is this how I experience life? And if I'm unsatisfied with it, like, is this the best thing that's available? And can the one who created me offer me something different that really consoles my spirit, right? And that's, I think, where I turn to Quranic guidance and see if that changes then my way of being in the world. This is the sort of fundamental message that I extract.
This is very, like, it is about you in society. It's not about the society. Like, everything we told is not about the American people or Turkish people and so on, how they live their life. It's about you, how you live your life within society, no matter what society you are in. Are you feel constant conflict? If so, this is because of your assumptions, the wrong assumptions. If not, it is because of your right assumptions or convictions, let's say. That's the distinction. How you live your life. Making it practical, you will make it practical. People who lived 14 centuries ago will not do it for you. You will make it practical. Just like Abraham mentioned in Qur'an, right? A person was like a nation by himself. One person, make it practical. He will make it practical. He will change his stance within society. Even everyone around him are unbelievers, atheists. He would say, this is mine, like this is the creation, my created for me. I don't see them as enemies, he will say. I see them as my fellows in my training. He became practical. You don't need a country to make it practical, or 1,000 people or handful of people, just you. Qadir.
Yeah, just a small comment about the democracy thing that sister mentioned. Like it says there is no mention of it in the Quran. So I just wanted to go to the ayah 42:38, and it says, who respond to their Lord, establish prayer. And then there is Wamrahum Shuram Bainahum, conduct their affairs by mutual consultation and donate from what we have provided for them. So it literally says in there, and then as for the stupid comment, like if people are stupid, like at the end of the day, that's how democracy works. So you have to accept that. Otherwise, that leads to anarchy. And I don't think Islam promotes anarchy. It promotes democracy. And I think you made that comment like very specifically. And I think that is not the right way to go about it. Thank you.
I mean, that would, of course, get into another longer conversation about whether democracy is Islamic or even what we mean by democracy, because do we mean American democracy? Do we mean, I don't know, European democracy or whatever? And whether if when we make shura and we decided that, guys, we are not going to pray anymore, would we accept this among shura? So it requires more than majority votes when it comes to shura. So according to democracy, if we were to agree that, you know, what's in our country, we are Muslim guys, but from now on, zina is okay. Like we made a shura and we decided this. It's not going to be an Islamic conclusion. So the conversation goes further, but
it is the majority rule. And if you have like some kind of total against it, then it's anarchy going against the government. Then you have to follow your government as well.
So this is why things are a little murky in there. So let's leave it as such at the moment.
But let's conclude with where Sister Aisha Nur left. This is about how you see your relationship with other people, yourself, everything in the creation. One word we would say, you are in a constant conflict. Watch your back. There is no other life. This moment is the only thing that you live, right? And you have dominion, authority over yourself and everything else around you. That's the one word view. Another would say, no, you are a needy being, but don't worry, you are taken care of. And this is a mulk. It's not just a random place. It is being operated by the wise one. And the moment that you are living is a promise for the eternal, the infinitely many moments to come. This is another worldview. And this worldview, two worldviews, will shape everything about you. That was the conclusion of that point about this, the sessions. It's not about how are you going to, create a country and rule it. It says it will shape everything about you. Your personal life will change. Your social life will change. Not the society will change. Society is whatever it is being created, whatever you find yourself in. This is the context in which you will make interpretations. And Quranic worldview would say, even if you are living in this terrible country, right? Still, you are among fellows. In what sense? At the level of creation. They will teach you what injustice is. They will make you more sensitive to injustice. You will start questioning your injustices, and you will become purer. Thanks to them, quote unquote. That's the fellowship. Right? And even in that society, even if you are in a prison being tortured, you would have at least sense of security.
Jazakumullah khairan, and thank you for being patient and awake. I was not expecting this much awakeness for such long sessions. So let's conclude here, inshallah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha.